So one of the main things that I struggle with teaching sharpeners how to go ahead and speed up the process of sharpening clipper blades is the time it takes for people to put blades back together. That always seems with new sharpeners to be the biggest struggle. So I did a video up for everyone to see how I do this, how I put the blade back together and the steps that I take. And what I found is it really does speed me up. I'm at a point where I can actually do about 15, maybe 20 blades an hour, depending upon how quick I'm working and what kind of quality the blades are that I'm working on. So hopefully you find this video helpful. This video is sponsored by the Edge Pro. Come on. They're the premier service for helping us as sharpeners service the grooming industry. They supply the parts and all the other sundries that would go along with repairing clippers and other tools. So we're thankful for them. So thank you for sponsoring this Edge Pro, and I hope that you enjoy the video. What I found is when sharpeners start putting blades back together as a new sharpener, they struggle with being able to get them back together and put back together quickly, which of course eats into your time as far as sharpening is concerned. What I'm going to show you here is how to put a blade back together quickly and easily so you can go ahead and get all the parts back together in line, get the setback set up, and then get everything tightened back down. So the way that I do this is I take my comb blade, I have it set upwards so I can oil it, and then I have my cutter blade is facing downward so I can go ahead and oil the rail. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to take the other parts of the clipper and stack all the pieces together, and then go ahead and put everything back together with the screws and get everything aligned. So let me show you my process. The way that I start is I take my blade oil and I will just run a bead of oil down the teeth, do a couple of drops of oil on the back rail, and then I'll do one drop, sorry that was two, on the cutter. I then stack the cutter, and I take the back side of that cutter and line it up with the back side of the rail. I then take my spring and my socket together, lay them on top of one another. My screws are still sitting off to the side. What I'll then do is I'll take the blade and I lift it up. I take my thumb, I put it up underneath. I take my middle finger and I put it on the socket. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to hold everything together, but it's also going to allow me to be able to move the socket independently if I need to, and the spring independently with the fingers on either one of my hands, my first fingers. Then I can turn this over and I can align my screw holes. Now I don't know how well you'll be able to see this in the video, but a lot of times the screw holes will be out of alignment and it's tough to get everything back together. The slot will get in the way, the screw hole won't be there properly. But you can move all of this around by just moving the socket and then moving the spring. So if you can see that, you can actually see how I can align all of those holes. Once all the holes are aligned properly, I can then insert my screw, grab my screwdriver, start the screw into the blade. Once I have the first one set up, I can come over and line everything up for the second one. Let's make sure that our back rail is still in line. Flip this back around, and now I can put my second screw in. Go ahead and start tightening this down. Now what I'm doing is I'm just loose gripping the screwdriver here and then here. I don't want to get it too tight because I want to be able to manipulate the cutter blade, because I want to make sure that my setback is set properly. Now the setback is the amount of distance between the tips of the teeth on the comb and the tips of the teeth on the cutter. So I want to make sure that they're set back properly. In this case, on this blade, I want about 3/32 of an inch, or about what the width of a credit card would be. So I'll set this all up together. Once I have that in place, I'm going to take it and palm it like this. And what that does is it holds everything in the blade in line, and I'm going to just snug and then snug and then crank and then crank to tighten this down. And what that does is it allows me to go ahead and set my setback on my blade, which is about right now, all the way along the blade. At this point I would stop. I would go ahead and do a test on the blade to see how tight it is, if it needs to be loosened or if it needs to be taken apart and have some more tension added to it. But this is a quick way to put a blade back together. So remember, the trick is to lift this up, put your thumb up underneath, put your middle finger on the socket, and that allows you to manipulate everything around to be able to line those holes up. That way you're not chasing those holes, which can slow you down. I hope that you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. The information to do so will be below. Also, a link for EdgePro's website will be linked below as well. Anyway, I hope that this is going to be a good help to you, and it'll help speed up the process for you just a little bit. Anyway, again, any questions, give me a shout, and we'll go ahead and give you the best help that we can. We appreciate you. Thanks. She knows to go back to the house when the alarm goes off. That's when it's done. See ya.